using cold press paper and the Kuretake palette. The colors I feel fit best with what Sanchez uses. I will also be using various different sizes of the round tip brush. I'm going to begin by loading up with a bunch of water. This style seems to primarily be wet on wet, and so I'm going to begin by taking that water and creating a nice little design. I'm currently drawing out the stems and the buds, trying to create what I believe to be a silhouette of petals and a flower in a similar way that Sanchez does in her work. Then I begin to take some color and dab it in. I want to start light because I don't want it to be too strong, as a lot of her work tends to be very transparent, especially with these flowers. I'm going to start moving the color and pigment around, trying to fill in that space that I've defined. I'll speed it up here a little bit. I start to take various different colors as well, and once again, like I said, go through and fill in the stems and the buds and all the other shapes that I've created. I'm mixing up a bit of a darker color here, as she tends to, while a lot of her work is transparent, she does tend to have splashes of some dark purples and reds, very deep colors. I take a smaller brush now and I start kind of using the wet paint to start feathering out some leaves. Now I'm going to add another flower here. Once again, starting with a loaded brush of water, I'm just going to create the shape. The previous flower I did is more at a side angle. This one is a little bit more head-on. She has a lot of designs like this, so I wanted to incorporate it. I'm choosing my color. A nice red will do. And once again, I'm just going to dip it around and kind of guide it along the shape that I've created. Now here's the thing that I'm going to be doing a little bit throughout is I load my brush up with water again, and I allow the drops to kind of spread the paint around and thin it, desaturate it a little bit, so that it continues to fill that shape. Now I'm coming back on the previous piece after it's had a little bit of time to dry, and I'm adding a little bit of a deeper color to add a little bit more definition. Once again, using that water drop technique that I said to add some spread. Sanchez also has a lot of blooms in her work, so I definitely wanted to incorporate that. So I've let it dry for a little bit, and I'm going to come back over and wet some spaces and come back in with some darker color. Gonna be letting it bloom out a little bit and letting it follow down the stem. One thing about her work, along with it being transparent, is the colors meld together really beautifully, and so I really wanted to get a variety of shades, just like hers. And same here, I'm coming in with some more pigment and adding a little bit more definition. Spreading the water around, guiding it but also letting it fall into place. Now I'm coming back in here with a little bit more color to define some leaves, add a few more. Once again, adding a little bit of water to kind of lighten things up. There you go. Now I just took a little bit of a dry brush on that bud there and took away some of the pigment so that it would keep the edges crisp but allow for some differentiation in color. Now I'm coming in with a very darker shade. And this is where I'm going to try to get a little bit more of some defined blooms. Although I believe I didn't quite take as much time as necessary, so they ended up bleeding into each other more than I would have liked. And that's about it. Let it dry, and that should be the final product. And here's a little bit of a look-see at a couple of the others that I've done.